The home of a former president of the Philippines, Rodrigo Duterte, went underwater. The home of a former PNP chief, now Metropolitan Manila Development Authority General Manager, Nicolas Torre III, went under too. And this happened in a city that, according to the government's own budget records, received roughly 51 billion pesos in infrastructure funding for just one of its districts. If the most powerful, most connected family in Davao City wasn't spared from the flood, what chance does an ordinary family in Bangkal, in Talomo, in Tugbok really have? On Friday night, July 24th, 2026, relentless rain from the southwest monsoon, known locally as Habagat, combined with the approach of severe tropical storm Quiapo, triggered severe flooding across Davao City. The Talomo River and Matina River overflowed, sending floodwater into the barangays of Los Amigos, Matina, Bangkal, Talomo proper, and even Tugbok and Catalunan Pequeño. In areas like Bangkal and Talomo proper, floodwaters rose to 2.43 meters, more than 8 feet, high enough to submerge rooftops. One person died, more than 1,200 people were displaced, and more than 300 were rescued by the Coast Guard, police, and volunteers. Rolando Moncada, Jose, 54 years old, was riding his motorcycle through Barangay Talandang when he tried to cross the floodwaters that Friday afternoon. The currents swept him into a nearby creek, and his body was only recovered 3 kilometers downstream the following morning. This was officially confirmed by Edna Dayang Hirang, Director of the Office of Civil Defense for the Davao region. This isn't just a number. This was a father, a husband, who was simply trying to get home that night. In Barangay Tugbok proper, 2 children were swept away along with their house when the current suddenly surged. In the darkness, surrounded by rushing water, they clung to a tree and stayed there for nearly 3 hours until personnel from the Philippine Coast Guard District Southeastern Mindanao finally reached them. They had been separated from their father in the chaos, and he too was searched for and eventually rescued. This is exactly the kind of incident that shouldn't be happening anymore, especially when large amounts of public money have already gone into flood control in this very district. On Tall Street in Bangkal, inside Central Park subdivision itself, sits the Duterte family's ancestral home. This was confirmed by Philstar and other local outlets. The floodwater reached this compound as well. No serious injuries or fatalities were reported there, but in a city widely described as the Duterte political dynasty's stronghold for more than 2 decades, the flooding of their own home carries a powerful symbolism. If even a family with access to the highest levels of government wasn't safe, who is? Nicolas Torre III, the former PNP chief, now general manager of the Metropolitan Manila Development Authority, owns a home in NHA Bangkal, Barangay Talomo, where he himself is a resident. That home flooded too. In a Facebook post, he pointed out that this wasn't the first time their house had flooded. It had happened repeatedly over the years. In that post, Torre cited a figure that's been circulating publicly since 2025, roughly 51 billion pesos allocated to Davao City's flood control efforts. But here's the important clarification, that 51 billion pesos, confirmed by the DPWH itself in a congressional hearing, was actually the total infrastructure budget for Davao's first district from 2020 to 2022, covering major road and bridge projects like the Davao City Coastal Road and the Ulas Viaduct. Of that amount, DPWH officials testified that only around 8 to 10.5 billion pesos was specifically earmarked for flood control. Either way, Torre's underlying question stands. With that much public money already spent in this district, why does the same neighborhood keep going underwater? Following the incident, DPWH Secretary Vince Dizon personally inspected the Talomo River on Wednesday, July 29th. What he found? A 2019 project meant to raise the height of the Talomo River dike by 2 meters. That was never completed. 7 years had passed, and only portions of it had been raised. A section of the Gabion flood control wall had completely collapsed after being damaged by flooding back in 2019, and it was never repaired since. Secretary Dizon stated directly that this was the responsibility of DPWH leadership at both the national and local level. Another troubling discovery: the Talomo River hadn't been dredged, cleared of silt and debris, in almost 10 years. Because of this, the river's capacity to carry floodwater out to sea had shrunk, causing it to overflow faster whenever heavy rain fell in the mountains upstream. According to Secretary Dizon, fixing this wouldn't even be expensive. The repair is estimated to cost less than 100 million pesos. The problem, he said, was never a lack of funding for this specific fix. It was a failure of execution. In response, Secretary Dizon ordered an investigation into personnel at the Davao City District Engineering Office over possible negligence. This isn't just a matter of bad weather anymore. It's a matter of accountability. There is also a JICA, Japan International Cooperation Agency, master plan that was supposed to have been implemented long ago to permanently fix Davao's flood control system. But it too was never carried out and is only now being lined up for funding under the 2027 national budget. The Davao flooding didn't happen in isolation. Since 2025, a massive nationwide scandal has been unfolding over flood control funding. One in which Finance Secretary Ralph Recto testified that an estimated $2 billion, or roughly 118.5 billion pesos, may have been lost to corruption over just the past 2 years alone, while separate Senate estimates put total losses since 2016 as high as 1.14 trillion pesos. Because of this, Filipinos took to the streets in cities across the country on 3 major nationwide dates: September 21st and November 30th, 2025, and February 25th, 2026, in a movement called the Trillion Peso March, demanding transparency and accountability. The Davao flood is just one example of how ordinary families are directly feeling the impact of this scandal. According to the Philippine Statistics Authority, the World Bank, and the OECD, the ongoing scrutiny of this scandal has slowed both government and private sector investment nationwide. The Philippines' GDP growth fell to just 2.8% in the first quarter of 2026, down sharply from 5.4% growth in the same quarter the year before. The message here is clear. When flood control projects don't get finished because of corruption, it's not just homes that get destroyed. The entire national economy takes a hit. This also isn't the first time the Philippines has experienced this scale of damage from storms and rain. In November 2025, Typhoon Kalmaigi claimed the lives of more than 200 people in central Philippines and caused more than $60 million in damage to crops and farmland. According to the World Risk Index, the Philippines consistently ranks first among 193 countries in exposure to disasters, typhoons, earthquakes, and floods. But what makes Davao different? Nature alone isn't the cause here. By the DPWH Secretary's own admission, negligence in project execution is why the impact turned out to be so much worse. 5 days after the flood, 60-year-old Rolando Deramas was still found clearing mud out of his home in Sitio San Juan village. He lost his household appliances, things he had worked hard for years to afford, all gone within just a few hours. Ivy Opong, 30, spent that terrifying night on her rooftop, together with her daughter and her pregnant sister-in-law, as the water kept rising. In an emotional interview afterward, she said the experience left both her and her child deeply traumatized. Her daughter's first time ever sleeping on a rooftop, crying and asking if the flooded street outside was some kind of swimming pool. In Barangay Talomo, a store owner was seen sorting through the merchandise she managed to salvage from the flood. The same goods she sells every single day to provide for her family. This is the face behind every 1,200 displaced figure mentioned in the news. Not just a number, but real Filipino families, much like many of you watching this right now, whose life's work was disrupted in a single night of heavy rain, and by projects that were never finished. So what does this mean for us, and for our loved ones back in the Philippines? If you have family in Davao, in Mindanao, or anywhere near a river or a low-lying part of a city, it's important to know that flood control infrastructure in many parts of the Philippines still isn't fully complete or properly maintained, even in districts where large amounts of public funding have already been allocated. This isn't a reason to panic. It's a reason to stay alert and actively follow updates from Pagasa and your local DRRMO, especially during habagat season and typhoons. The most important lesson here is the question Nicolas Torre himself asked. Flood control shouldn't be measured by how many projects were started, but by how many homes no longer flood. That's the standard we should hold every government promise on flood control to, now and in the years ahead. If you want to stay updated with real, current news about the Philippines, the OFW community, and issues that directly affect your family, subscribe to Discovering the Earth and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss our next video.